So during university, I worked every summer. So first summer, I did summer school and also did a work study within the university. So that means I worked part-time at the university. It was a very chill job. As most work studies are, they understand you have summer school as well. So that was a minimum wage job, but you know, it got something on my resume, right? And then my second year summer, I actually worked at a small law firm that's someone I knew. As you'll see, like connections are really important, and getting jobs through connections, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Right. It's pretty normal.
It's a skill. It
is. And so that's what I did during my second summer, and I was kind of just doing very administrative work for a small law firm. And my third year was when I went like full on into Rotman mode and got a job at Cibc Capital Markets. So I was doing corporate banking there for one summer.
That's a big one.
That was like the big one, and basically that would be the job that I would have stayed at if I did not choose to do law. In general, as you can see, like it's a build-up, right? In terms of the summers, like you start out doing something small, and then you do something a bit more legitimate, and then finally you get kind of the one that people are aiming for, right? Yeah. So it's a build-up. You don't have to do CIBC in your first summer. I don't think anyone can unless your dad.
I tried my best, but then I couldn't get it.
Unless your dad runs into something. And if he does, like, props to you. So it's a combination of things. Number one, GPA, they do care about that. Turns out the banks do like a high GPA. Right. Number two is extracurricular experience. So I talked about my work at the RCSA. I also talked about my involvement in another club that I was involved in for 3 years since my first year. That's a Rational Capital Investment Fund. So this is one of the oldest student-run investment funds on campus. And I was the vice president of finance at that time. So it was a very relevant role for me to discuss. I could bring out my financial knowledge as well as my leadership, which is what they're looking for. Number three, I think what they were looking for is technical skills. And that's something you have to prepare for any interview. You have to do a little bit of research into the industry. You have to research what are some relevant knowledge that they want you to have coming into the job. And number four, and I think very importantly, is your people skills, your ability to impress someone in a short amount of time, your ability to talk coherently, answer questions, ask smart questions. And in general, they want someone they can work well with. They want someone they will, because it's all, you know, in capital markets, hours are long, you know, 12-hour days are very normal. So are you someone they want to spend 12 hours a day with? And that works for any job. At the end of the day, they're going to be working with you. So they want someone who they will like to work with. Couple of reasons. I think one, to be honest, you can't ever get too much of school. Right. Nowadays, undergrad is pretty common, and I think having a master's in something really sets you above the crowd. Right. And obviously, I think also it was also an opportunity for me to spend some time in a different place, in a different university, in a different country, and with all the advantages that brings. You know, in terms of my career. A springboard from a university like this one is Harvard. Is definitely larger than from Uoft, which is the Harvard of the North, but it's still not the real Harvard. Yes. Right? So I guess those are kind of the primary reasons why I decided more school. Also, school is actually pretty fun. I think for those of you who are in school right now, you probably don't like school. But I will say, like, when I was at CIBC and I was doing those 12-hour days during the summer, I was like,
you're like, I miss school, yeah.
School is pretty awesome. You set your own schedule. You wake up late, you go to sleep late, you hang out with friends on a Tuesday night. Like, you don't ever do that when you're working, right? Because
the school you're going is Harvard. Do you think that has to do with why you want to do more school as well? Like, do you think?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Like, there's a certain attraction to that.
Right. There's like the reputation of Harvard. Yeah, so I guess that was one of the reasons why as well.
Okay, so why law? So I've always wanted to do law. This has been a goal of mine since the beginning of high school, probably, if not earlier. So I always knew I wanted to do law. Why did I want to do law? It was complicated. I don't remember exactly why I decided I wanted to be a lawyer back then, but I do know why I want to do it now. I like problem solving. I like working within constraints. I'm not a complete blank slate creative kind of guy. I like to have frameworks, but then within the frameworks, I like to find ways around it. A lot of the work that I found interesting during my university career and during my work in extracurriculars, I think all kind of pointed to law as well. For instance, at the RCSA, I was one of the people who rewrote the Constitution. And this was a big project. It took a year. But it was really interesting learning about like reading through example constitutions, reading through our constitution, finding like what are some ways we structure our organization to make it most fair to students, give us a little bit of power, give students a bit of power, you know? It's like, how do you balance these things and make it so everyone's happy with the product? And not everyone's gonna be happy with the product, but seeing how the smallest little changes make the biggest impact. And at the end of the day, it's like the Constitution, maybe if everything goes well, you never have to refer to the Constitution, but if there's ever some problem with one of your executives, if there's a big issue, if there's a big crisis in the organization, that's where you get what you have to do. And it's written out in that Constitution. And there, the slightest change in language makes a big impact. So I thought that was really important, and I thought that I liked that kind of work. Well, beyond numbers, obviously,
beyond 4.0,
beyond the GPA and LSAT, which are both very important. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for commitment. They're looking for someone who will make a difference. And so in terms of that, I think my experience at the RCSA would be the single biggest thing that got me into law school.
And your position for the presidency was perfect because it did show your commitment, it did show your leadership, so I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it all works together in a way. It's like getting the presidency, it showed, you know, if I didn't have these skills, I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't have gotten it. And having gotten it, then it shows that I have these. And then, so when I'm presenting to law school, I can point out to the things that I've done to get me here. And it's a whole package, I think. So in terms of my takeaway for that, it is like involvement in clubs, really, really important. And in terms of what club, does it matter? Not the biggest. Like obviously larger clubs with more history, it would be good. But really, if you have something you're passionate about, and you put a lot of time into it, put a lot of effort into it, that's what shows. And when you talk about it, like if you talk about it with passion, with excitement, which obviously I did because it's something I'm really excited about, then they can see that. They're like, wow, it's like they really care about the RCSA. That means when they come here, they're gonna really care about it as well.
They're gonna do the same thing.
I'm keeping it very, very fluid. So in terms of my current plan, I'm going to most likely do corporate law. I'm most likely going to specialize in corporate law during my years at Harvard, just based on my experience coming from a business background. That said, it's not set in stone, and I'm really open, and I really want to kind of challenge this, in fact, during my first year of law school and see what other opportunities there are and if there's any other parts of law that I might like even more. But based on my current knowledge or my current background, I think that corporate law is kind of where I'm headed. So with that in mind, most likely I will be doing corporate law, in a law firm for at least the first couple years out of grad. And then from there on, I think there's a lot of things that I could possibly do. But continuing to do law, finding a niche that I really like, and really working at that, or going into business, or to be honest, like I think a lot of probably what I'm going to end up doing, I wouldn't have even have imagined. As I said before, like in grade 12, if you ask me, oh, so what's your goal, during university, where do you see yourself in 4 years? Like, I wouldn't have thought my 4th year would look like that. So based on that, I don't think I'll know what my life looks like in 10 years. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that's the beauty of going to like good schools. It's the network that you're with.
Because you don't know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, exactly. Where you end up really depends on the people that you meet, the opportunities that you're presented, and the better that you do for yourself, the better school that you go to, the more opportunities, the better people that you meet, and then from there, that's when things happen, right? So it's very, very fluid, I think, and I like that. Wow, so this is the big question, and this is the question that you've got a multi-million-dollar admissions, admissions consultant industry based upon this, right? So I think in terms of what they're looking for, It's not that much of a black box. It's kind of like common. So I'll talk a little bit about exactly. So there's three kind of main factors they look for. Okay, so two of them are numbers and one of them is soft. So number one is your GPA. In terms of your GPA, they have their median and 25th percentile and 75th percentile entering class GPAs on their website. So like this is all public information, and yeah, like it's very high. Like they're looking at something like a 3.9 and above to be. And number two is your LSAT score. And again, they've got the numbers listed on their website. So they're looking for something, you know, above 97th, 98th percentile. So I
never asked you, what was your, if you want to share, what was your score?
It was in the 99th percentile.
Oh my God.
So, which again is not uncommon there. So yeah, so basically in terms of who they're taking, it's like they're looking at probably the top 1% of people in both GPA and in terms of LSAT score. So they're going around the world and they're looking for, you know, who are the top 1% people of all the universities here. They're looking for you know, pretty accomplished people. And then that brings to the third aspect, which is the soft skills, soft aspect. This is very variable. This is where it really changes. Like this depends on your background and your experiences. Like it's very common nowadays to go into law school after working a couple years. And so having work experience, some people do law school out of the military. Okay, so there's a lot of very different experiences that people have. And this third aspect is reflected in your resume. It's also reflected in your entrance essay. And it's also reflected in your interview if you have one. So that's where I talk about my RCSA experience. I talked about my experience in clubs, my summer internships. And this is where other people will talk about maybe their research projects, or maybe their like any big papers they've written, or their time volunteering, or their time, you know, in the military, or their time traveling. This is like very, very broad. And from here, they're just looking for someone who really has passion to do something and have really put a lot of effort in and have done very well in what they set out to do. For me, this was the RCSA, and for different people, it's different things. And so this is kind of the third most, this is the aspect that's probably, I think, really like differentiates people.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, there are more people who score super high LSATs and super high GPAs than Harvard can take. So where do you differentiate two people who both scored like 4.0s and super high LSATs? How do you differentiate them? Well, through this other third aspect, you know, are they an interesting person? Do they have a lot of interesting life experiences? You know, having that diversity and having something interesting about yourself or something that you've done and talking about that in that third part is really crucial.
That's like the game changer.